So here we have our lines of latitude, and because we've been drawing them in our reference table in green, I'm going to continue that. So for each one of these lines, I'm just going to go over it in green. And then let's put some labels on them. Our reference point is always our equator, and that's at 0 degrees. We don't have to put north or south on that, it's just 0 degrees. Now, if I'm going in this direction, I'm going north. And our maximum, which I didn't draw one here, our maximum latitude that we can have is 90 degrees. So up here, it would be 90 degrees, and it would be north. And the furthest south is 90 degrees south. And if I want to figure out what the value of these other lines are, I would just look at those intervals and determine that they're going by 30s. So this would be 30 degrees north and 60 degrees north. And when I'm in the southern hemisphere, I would go down to 90, so 30 degrees south and 60 degrees south. So when we draw these lines, okay, right, they're being drawn going east to west, but we measure them going to the north or to the south. So drawn from west to east, but we measure them as north and south. And that's really important, so highlight that. And we also call these sometimes, instead of latitudes, they're called parallels, because they're going to run parallel to each other. So because they're parallel, lines of latitude never touch. And if we're looking at our globe, these are all of our latitudes going around like this. You can see as we get close to the pole, they're making these concentric circles, so they're parallel to one another. So if we were looking from the pole, okay, so we have North Pole right here. If I'm looking from the pole straight down, okay, so if I'm hovering over the North Pole and I was looking at a view, what I would see, so there's the North Pole, it would be these lines, and the view would look like this. This is our North Pole. And this outer circle would be my equator. It would be the equator because that's the widest part of Earth. And so if I'm looking down, even if you're, say, looking down on a basketball, you're not going to see what's on the bottom of it. You're only going to see until its widest point, and then the rest of it to your eye is invisible. And let's look at longitude. So we'll draw those in orange, like we did on our reference table. And we need to have our point of reference. So here is the USA. All right, that's us right there. And we have Europe right over here. And we know the prime meridian is going to go right through Europe. So this is our prime meridian. And that's at 0 degrees. And it goes through, this map's not the greatest, but it's going to go through a place called Greenwich, England. So if we are going, because if we look back to our notes here, if we're going this way, okay, if this is our point of origin right there, right, so if I'm saying that would be my prime meridian, if I go this way, it's to the east, I go that way, it's to the west. So this is going to be my point of origin, right, because we have the equator and the prime meridian are crossing. So that means everything going this way is east, and everything that way is west. Our maximum value for longitude now is 180 degrees. And we don't have to put east or west there, it's just 180. And we call that the international date line. And this right here is also the international date line because remember, Earth, it's round. So if we took this flat map and folded it over, these two lines would match up. Okay. So bit of Russia right there, and it's showing it there, and Alaska. So we want to figure out what our other values for longitude would be. So if we're going here, 0 to 180, halfway, we'd have 90 degrees. And because we're in the Western Hemisphere, it's 90 degrees west. Okay. 45. And 135 degrees to the west. And if we're going the other direction, so same thing, this would just be 90 degrees to the east, and the others would be that same. So these lines, they run north to south. But we measure them west and east. And these are also called, instead of longitude, sometimes they're going to say meridians. And these are our lines of longitude. And there should be something that you're noticing as I'm drawing these, where they are all converging. So they're all going to converge at the poles. So North Pole. So all longitude lines merge at the north and south pole. So if I'm standing here on the North Pole, I am every single line of longitude because they're all converging there. And if I am looking down at the North Pole, like we were doing with looking at latitudes, But here I want to look at what my longitudes are going to look like. North Pole in the middle. It looks like spokes on a wheel. And then this outer bit would be my equator. So these views are really important to understand because you sometimes need to know what they look like from looking down.